Hey everybody, and welcome to Love Inspire YouTube channel. Are you in a situation where you're not trusting your partner? Are you on the receiving end where you're trying to regain trust? Tune into this video as me and my husband discuss how we overcame trust in our relationship due to a lie I told. Later on this week, I will be doing a little bit of videos and blogging, helping people overcome. Stick around if you want triumph in your relationship. Hey everybody, and welcome to Love Inspire YouTube channel. For the next month or so, I'm going to be discussing relationship killers. And I felt like these were important to talk about because people don't really know or have an awareness of what kills their relationship. Right. And so the first relationship killer that I wanted to talk about was lack of trust. And I have my husband on the show because earlier on in our relationship, there was a lack of trust due to a lie that I told before we even had became boyfriend and girlfriend and things of that sort. There was a lie that kind of changed the course and the direction of our relationship. So I wanted to have you on this particular one to talk about lack of trust and how it actually does kill a relationship, or and just working through it. Like you can work through it, but it's something that, and the reason why I say relationship killers is because it's something that is not necessary. Right. You know what I mean? And I feel like if I can identify these relationship killers that are not necessary, maybe people will not do it. Hopefully that's the goal. Everybody wants a good, healthy relationship, and so here we are, lack of trust. And one thing that I want to discuss is the signs that you have lack of trust in your relationship. We were talking about this the other day driving home about how if you have to constantly check your spouse's messages, check their phone, that's not a good sign that you are trusting of them.
Right, and who has time for all that,
Right.
You want to be happy in life, and always having to check behind somebody, not trusting somebody in general is just too time consuming. Like, who wants to go through all that?
I know when I was a teenager, I would check things, but that's due to a level of immaturity and right. Just when you grow with somebody and when you grow up with somebody, you start to develop a rapport with them, and you say, okay, well, I know his character. I don't need to go on his phone and look at his Facebook messages, or I don't need to go on his phone and look at his text messages.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that people do all the time. Right. And it's just not necessary. Like, why would you want to do that?
Right. And I think being transparent in other areas will develop trust in other areas. If I'm transparent over here, then she should know how I am from what I do over here. So in other areas and other situations, you'll trust me.
Right, exactly. And another thing I think about with the signs of lack of trust is when you have to, a lot of the times, I had parental issues and things of that sort, and a lot of the times, if you have to think twice about opening up with somebody about a situation, your past, right. Something that has to do with your parents, maybe you were molested as a child, whatever the case may be, if you have to think twice about opening up to your partner about something so sensitive like that, I think that's a red flag that, okay, you may not trust this person right. with the information.
Another thing is, do you believe your partner? Like, even over the simple things. Like, I see some people that just, whatever their spouse says, they don't believe it. Yeah. They could be telling the 100% God honest truth, but if it's coming out of their mouth, they will not believe it.
That's true. And when you start seeing these signs in your relationship, okay, why am I not checking his phone? Especially after when you've been with somebody, our 13th anniversary is coming up. So when you've been with somebody so long, right. And you're still doing stuff that you were doing earlier on in the relationship, at that point you probably need to identify, okay, what caused this?
Right.
And so that could be a previous lie, which was in our situation. That could be infidelity that caused this lack of trust, that where you feel like you have to check phones. That could be bringing up past situations. And I don't think, one thing that I want to talk about on that one, bringing up past situations, I don't think people understand how that can be, it can really affect trust from the other person if you are constantly bringing up somebody's past, or if they are like if you were to bring up that I had to go to therapy as a child all the time. Well, something's wrong with you because you had to go to therapy as a child.
Right.
You know, that would create some kind of block where, you know what, I don't even trust you to tell you any deep dark secrets.
Right. And I think that's also a major sign of lack of trust. If somebody keeps on bringing up old things, that means they don't trust you. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
why are you going out? You know, you cheated on me 15 years ago, so how am I supposed to believe that you're not cheating on me now?
Right.
Those old scars, those old wounds, they don't heal, so
Right.
that develops a lack of trust.
And I feel like any time I wrote in the book, pick up my book as well, Val Triumph. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the other platforms as well. But I wrote in the book, there's always to work with people in their cause. There's a cause and effect to everything. So if you work with somebody and fighting why they're doing what they're doing, okay, why did you get cheated on?
Right.
The person could just be a dirtbag. I'm not against staying with and working through trust with somebody that cheated one time.
Right.
I'm not opposed to that. I can say that because I know you're not a cheater. So, you know, some people that'll be the green, like, okay, let me just do it one time, step out one time.
Right.
I'm saying that because I trust that you would never do that. But I'm not opposed to working through something like that if it happens one time. Now, if you're talking about habitual infidelity, how can you expect somebody to trust you through habitual infidelity? You know?
Exactly. And it's just like some wounds and injuries that we develop or incur in our life. Like, there are some things that will heal naturally, but even those things that heal naturally, they'll take time. But if you got a cut or something like that, yeah, it will heal after a while. But if you take care of that cut, if you put peroxide on it and clean it up and put a bandage on it, and not only will it heal faster, but it will heal the right way.
Right.
There are some broken bones or some injuries that we can incur in life where surgery will heal it faster and stronger, whereas it might heal by itself. I remember I broke my hand. I never had surgery on it. It doesn't bother me now. I mean, it's still a little indentation right here, but later on down the line, it might affect me because I didn't take the necessary steps to heal it, to properly heal it.
Right.
Like, I don't feel pain, so it healed on its own, but did it properly heal?
You have to work through it.
Exactly. You have to work through it, on it, and make the necessary steps to correct where you went wrong.
Right. And just talking, like, in your instance, you know, as far as, you know, my business and everything like that, you know, I'm all about what are the steps to do to overcome? How can we get to the place of trust? And for the next few days, I will have blogs out on the steps from my perspective, but on your type of end where you were told something that wasn't the truth, how did you overcome that with me? And to still be married. Well, obviously this happened 2000, so we're talking about something that happened 16 years ago, but we've been married for 13, so obviously you've moved past it.
Right.
So how did you overcome for people that are trying to, like...
I think the best way to overcome a situation like that is you have to look at the reasons why somebody did something. You know, some people are just, they have a problem, maybe they have a sexual addiction, maybe that's why they cheat on you. Or in this situation, it was a lie. So you got to break down why somebody lied to you. Did they lie to you because they're a liar? Did they lie to you because they were ashamed? They lied to you because they didn't want to hurt you? I looked at the reasons of why you told that lie. Then I looked at the other aspects of your life, like what kind of person you are. Then I put it all together and realized, well, she lied to me because she loved me. And at the end, I mean, she didn't lie, trying to deceive me. I'm not giving consent saying that you should lie to people because you love them. I'm just giving a specific example of this particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every situation is different, and it never really is an excuse for a lie. But like I said, you have to kind of understand and be a forgiving person.
Right.
Understand why that lie was told.
And just to help people understand, because, you know, if you've read my book already, you know I'm all about transparency and opening up. What we're discussing is 16 years ago, I have, you know, me and Nate, we have known each other all our lives. I used to follow him around. You know, he knew, I didn't know then, but he knew that he was always going to marry me and vice versa, even without dialogue with one another. And so when he first approached me, I was in a relationship with somebody else. And so it was like, okay, this person that I've always wanted, that I know I'm going to marry, has now approached me and I have a boyfriend. What the heck do I do? And so I just said, no, I don't have a boyfriend. And that's how the lie started. And then, you know, when you do, which I'll get into later this week, is when you do tell one lie, you have to realize there's lies behind that you have to keep up with, a facade that you have to keep up with. I may have had good intentions of not, you know, for me it was this person that I always wanted now is right in front of my face, and here I am with a knucklehead that I had no future with. Let me just, you know, and so when I could have just been honest from the beginning, obviously at 31 years old, I realized that I know Christ and I know that we were meant to be, so whatever was going to happen. Right. And I think I wrote that in one of the blogs that'll be out tomorrow, is I kind of felt like how Sarah did when she just took matters into her own hands. Right. And had her handmaid go sleep with her husband, right, instead of just letting God work the situation out. And that's how I felt. Like, I tried to take matters into my own hands, and I created a bigger mess. Right. And it was years, years down the line before I was able to gain that trust back.
Right. And me being a preacher, I always have to bring God into the situation, mm-hmm, knowing that He is in control of all things. And I have to just look at His plan. Like, the things happen that we can't understand, we fought somebody else for, right, but in the end, it worked together for our good. Because at the end of the day, knowing what type of person I am, I was in the church at the time we got together. I believe I might have been a deacon, I believe. So it's like, and I had pretty much the same mindset I have now. What if she would have told me she had a boyfriend? Now, I know this is a person that loved me and liked me their whole life. But the situation where we were brought together, where Mac brought her to my car, and it was just like a spur of the moment thing. Right. How am I just supposed to believe that she didn't have a boyfriend, or fault her for having a boyfriend? Right. But in the situation, what if I asked her that night, which I believe I did, it was the same night, if I would have asked her, do you have a boyfriend? And she said, yeah. If she would have left him that day for me, I don't know how I would have felt about that. Right. Because it's like, well, think about that. If you're willing to leave him that easy, as soon as you meet somebody else, what would you have done to me? Right. What would you do to me? Like, would you leave me as soon as you find somebody better? Right. I don't know you did. Maybe somebody more than me out there that you like. If you can finally get with that person that you may have never thought you can get with, you're going to kick me to the curb too? So all things work together for good.
That's true. I didn't think about it because obviously I didn't tell the lie to be deceptive, right, or, because I'm a liar. Right. I didn't even think about it from that angle of, well, what if I did tell you the truth? Then right, what would have happened? But that's a good point. We can tumble around different scenarios and stuff, right, like that. Obviously, like you said, all things worked out for the good, and we have a testimony to help other people, because there are a lot of people that are going through lack of trust in their relationship. There are a lot of people out there that's probably going to listen to this video saying, I'm going through the same thing, how do I overcome it? And one thing that I do want to talk about is what lack of trust will do to your relationship, it will truly limit vulnerability. And when you think about vulnerability, and this is in connection to bringing up the past, if you think about vulnerability is a connection to somebody.
Right.
And you're vulnerable with me and I'm vulnerable with you. We have things that we talk about amongst each other that we won't discuss with other people.
Right.
And so when I think of that, and I think of somebody that can't come to their partner and talk to them about past relationships,
Right.
Mishaps within themselves, parental issues. Maybe they had mommy daddy issues. Maybe in my case where I've been to therapy and I'm just now announcing that to people that I have gone to therapy once or twice as a child. But if you don't have trust in your relationship, you won't have that connection, that vulnerable connection to discuss these things. And therefore, you and your partner really aren't one.
Right.
Because you don't know me, you don't know my past, you don't know what makes up me, you don't know why I act the way I do. And that's why I always feel like you need to know the past. You need to know the history of somebody, because history is what makes up a person.
Right.
You know, the reason why I'm so strict on when we do have kids, our kids being super close, is because I didn't grow up, because my mom had kids here, my dad had kids here. I didn't grow up in a close-knit sibling, like you did, like how you grew up with your siblings. And I didn't grow up, so I'm very strict on, this is what I want. I want our kids to be close, like I want them to be tight.
Right.
And so you have to have that vulnerable connection to connect with somebody, and to get that vulnerability, you have to have trust. You have to be able to trust this person with your life, with the information that you are giving them, and trust that they won't throw it back up into your face and use it against you. And I can say I have never heard you, even in a moment of intense fellowship, I heard my public speaking instructor use that one time, you've never thrown that part of my life up into my face. And I do appreciate it for that, because that was it's a tough thing going through that, not being raised by your mother and father.
Right.
As a child, as an adult, I love it. It's
Right.
great. But as a child, it's not a fun thing. So
in regards to that, me personally, I never like to comment on things I don't know anything about. Like, that's not my place. If I don't understand what it is like to be raised by a one parent, or raised by your grandparents in her situation, then I won't comment on that. It's not a funny thing to pick on somebody for that. And another thing about, as far as the lack of trust, what it will do to a relationship, I think it will hinder the growth of your relationship. Really will, like, from a basic standpoint. Like, my wife, if she wants to be successful and I'm jealous of her and I don't trust her, in a way I have the power to kind of like hinder her success.
yeah.
Oh, what if she blows up and all these guys, they're going to want her after that, and she becomes famous, every man's going to want her. So a lot of people do that to their wives. They'll stunt their growth.
Yeah.
And even on our daily routine, like, if you don't trust your wife, like, what are you thinking about, or your husband, what are you thinking about when they go to work? What are you thinking about when they go to the store?
Are they really at the store?
It's like you don't want them to be around anybody else, and you can't even have fun in your relationship. You can't even go to the movies and enjoy yourself, because it's not about you and your wife. It's about who's looking at my wife, who's looking at my husband. You can't even go out to eat. You just want to stay a hermit in your own home just because you have lack of trust to your significant other.
Right. And I think about that situation that you brought up right now. You are the primary breadwinner. I have a startup company, so obviously I'm taking a little bit more losses than I am seeing a good revenue in return. And so, like you said, and then it's on the receiving end too. I have to trust that he won't, I guess for lack of better terms, screw me in return of, my not. And I say this, it's unchristian, like, but my life is kind of in his hands, not necessarily, but for, what I'm trying to say, like, it's literally in his hands of providing things that I want. I get what I need, but providing things that I want. I like to get my nails done. I like to get my hair, things like that. So, trust is so important. And another thing that I do want to talk about is if you don't have trust in your relationship, it will make lying and deception a little bit more easy to do. If going back to the past, because I think we just look at trust and we see infidelity, and it's not that. It's bringing up past. Takes trust.
Right.
You have to have a full confidence in somebody that they won't hurt you in return by bringing that up and digging that up, especially when you did the work to overcome it. And so I feel like when talking about bringing up the past, if I don't feel comfortable talking to you about something, if I feel like you're going to react a certain way, even not telling the whole story is like telling a lie.
Right.
I'm still not being open with you. I'm still not being honest with you. It's more easy for me to just lie about the situation and deceive you about the situation instead of just opening up and saying, this is what's going on. Maybe I had a bad day at work, or you had a bad day at work, or you had a bad day at work, and you're afraid of how your significant other is going to react. And so if you don't have trust in that person, that they're going to give you the love and compassion and forgiveness, like you were saying earlier, that's opening you up to lie and to deceive and to not be transparent with your feelings and things of that sort. So trust is huge.
Right. And one more thing in regards to what lack of trust will do. If you're the type of person that once you get something in your head, there's no change in your mind. Mm-hmm. You could be totally wrong, but there's no change in your mind. You have to be careful at that, because you may think that your man or woman is cheating on you, and you have that in your head. When the situation comes up where you're presented with the same situation, mm-hmm. in your mind, you're going to be like, well, they're doing this to me, so you're more likely to do it too. But that person could not be doing something to you.
Right.
You just have it in your head. It's stuck in your head that this person is a certain way and you can't get it out. You have to be careful about that.
That's why, and I think that's so important to bring up too, and that's when, you have to remember your scripture talking about vengeance. And I think I said this in the book. Vengeance, I didn't say this in the book, but now I'm saying vengeance belongs to the Lord. But I also said in the book that it's not your job to punish your partner.
Right.
You should be able to communicate with them, but if I feel like you're doing me wrong, it's not my job to punish you.
Right.
It's not your job to punish me.
Yeah.
God does not need help doing whatever it is that he's doing.
Right.
Period.
God sees all.
And knows all.
And he's the righteous judge. If Angie's doing something to me that I don't know about, you got to trust that God knows
mm-hmm.
about it. And God will handle everything accordingly.
And when he deals with you, it ain't nothing that he can do to hurt me when God deals with me. So it just keep that in mind. Later this week, I'm going to talk about how to overcome in blogs and different posts, how to overcome trust through my situation, through my own end. You have to really, first of all, you have to really love somebody to overcome something like that.
Right.
Especially in my situation where the lie had to turn into multiple lies to cover up that one lie. So you have to really love somebody to sit here and say, I choose to work through this. I choose to take time. I choose to have patience with you. I choose to give you an opportunity to be consistent, because you have to do the work, and then your partner has to do the work on the same. So we're both working.
Right.
And sometimes working is not easy.
Right.
It's just not easy. And I always tell people, listen, relationships they're worth it. But they're not easy, especially when you come up with some kind of adversity. If you're not truly in love with this person, if you're not wanting to see the relationship grow, you're not going to fertilize it. You're not going to do the work, to take the time, the consistency, and the patience to rebuild, in this instance, trust.
Right.
So,
right.
Anything you have to say? Anything you want to tell people?
Just first trust in God, and everything will work out after that.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned with me this week on my website, www.loveandinspiry.com. I will be doing blogs on rebuilding trust. Each step will be released each day, and I also maybe do a little video or a little post to recap what I discussed. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Just remember, if you're going through a situation where you are not trusting of your partner, or vice versa, your partner did something to you to make you not trust them, listen, communicate, talk it out, and do the work. Do the work to get there if you are truly in love with this person, especially if you're married. If you're married, it would benefit you to pick up my book, Vow Triumph, Breaking Down the Marriage Vows. Again, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, the Ingram Network, Lulu, my website. Just Google it and you will be able to find it. Vow Triumph. Thank you.